So in this one, we're going to have a look at a bit of a throwback video. This was one of the first videos I put on my original channel, but I think it's really timely to review, especially with the nature of the topic. Because we're going to be talking a little bit about the Fourth Amendment and how the frauditors claim to the Fourth Amendment protecting them from identifying going into buildings as other nonsense. Hopefully you guys enjoy. I'm talking about this.
Move throughout the building in the accessible areas of the building. And I don't wish to give up my Fourth Amendment right to my ID either.
You have to identify us
To come into the public building? I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, that's not true. No, you don't violate the Fourth Amendment. That's not how you do it.
You have ID on you.
I'm not
You have a
answering
name.
any questions.
You have a name.
Not answering any questions. I don't allow any searches or seizures of any of my possessions.
I'm allowed to not put my name on it, again, per the Maryland PIA Act and per the Fourth Amendment that gives me the right to not be subject to unlawful searches and seizures of my identity. So,
I believe it's the Fourth Amendment.
Search and seizure, unlawful search and seizure?
Correct. I should be able to be free to go into public places without having to give up my ID card.
When you go to the library
You can, yeah, they've got free internet.
to do
down-
public records requests.
You can, yeah, or you can give us your information and we can input it on our end.
Okay, well, that's a Fourth Amendment violation. You guys realize that, right?
I can't lie, this is probably one of the weakest arguments that these frauditors use. But let's take a moment to look at what the Fourth Amendment actually is saying. The Fourth Amendment indicates clearly that it is the right of the people to be secured in their persons and be protected against unreasonable searches and seizures and to not be violated. And you can go on and read the rest of the amendment. And it's interesting how the frauditors use this line consistently just simply when they want to enter a government building, when 99.9% of people, when they go in these buildings, comply fully with this. I mean, if security says, let me see your ID, there's 0.0001% of annoying people who actually say this. So the question really is it unconstitutional to identify an individual when attempting to enter a public building? Well, the answer, I think it's reasonable to say that that's not actually the case. I mean, look at the language of the amendment. It says that people are secure against unreasonable searches and seizures. So the question is it unreasonable to identify a person to enter a public building or a government building, rather? And the answer is no. Businesses absolutely have the right to maintain the safety of the physical persons and the patrons of the establishment. And the most important thing is that nothing is being seized during this period. A person's personal possessions or belongings aren't being taken away. They're simply being identified before they enter a building. And we can understand why this is the case in order to ensure the orderly operation of a building and provide a safe environment for tenants and visitors. And if photo ID is required, then look, building security is always happy to guide you around the building that you're not familiar with. Now, there's some interesting case law on this. Gilmore v. Gonzalez, where the individual felt as though he was being penalized for refusing to show identification at an airport before boarding his flight, which to me is such a silly concept. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy was an early stage of frauding. But he argued that this constituted a warrantless general search for identification. Now, the Supreme Court immediately denied this claim, denying it in essence as utterly nonsense. As the court's opinion, they specified that the request for identification in a reasonable manner, of course, does not constitute a Fourth Amendment seizure, as if the circumstances surrounding the request for ID would have resulted in him being detained or his personal property being seized. But rather, upon not IDing himself in this matter, he was not detained. Rather, he was told that failure to comply would result in him being asked to leave. And in essence, that's what happened. He just left. So he wasn't threatened with any repercussions or threatened to be arrested or anything like that. He simply was just not allowed to board the plane. So the court ruled that, yes, this was reasonable and this was not a violation of the Fourth Amendment rights. Hey guys, present day Will here. I wanted to insert something super quick before we go any further in this video, and it's an additional argument that could be made to supporting the case law. And that is something that we talk about frequently on this channel, and that is what's called the Forum Doctrine. Now, I'm not going to bore you guys. We know what the Forum Doctrine is, but I think it's interesting that the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures of one's possessions. However, because the Forum Doctrine exists, a person cannot then claim that their rights are being violated when under the 10th Amendment, the Forum Doctrine even exists, where the owner of the forum can designate or regulate what takes place on their property. So therefore, the argument that the Fourth Amendment is the reason why they don't have to identify, it's meritless, because the Forum Doctrine states that if it's a limited or a non-public forum, they absolutely can regulate what conduct is or is not permitted, and in this case, identifying when entering inside a building. That's a really crucial point. Just wanted to add that little tidbit. Now let's go back to the video. And again, with these audits, this is where the controversy arises. I mean, the frauditors, they get so angry when this happens, when security simply says, let me see your ID, or you have to go through the metal detectors. They begin to curse and scream and yell at employees, threatening them and claiming some sort of repercussions to the security for simply doing their job. I mean, it's not an unreasonable request for an individual to identify themselves before going into a secure government building. I mean, imagine how you were feel. People try and enter a building that you're told to secure. They're being loud, obnoxious, going around in an anonymous manner, not saying what their purpose is. And on top of that, they're refusing to identify themselves. Is it not reasonable to figure out who they are before they enter a building? And the answer is yes. Now, a second case that stands out in this matter, U.S. v. Mendenhall from 1980. It's very similar to the previous case that we mentioned, but I like how it really defines a few things. Well, one, it shows that the use of the Fourth Amendment, or the purpose of it, is not to give the idea or the concept rather that the community has full immunity from interaction with the police, but to protect citizens from oppression by these officials and to help maintain their privacy. Now, the case goes on to bring up that a person can only claim that they're subject to a seizure by being physically restrained or not allowed to leave in a situation. Now, think about it. The frauditors can say that they don't consent to searches and seizures under the Fourth Amendment. I mean, that's not the issue. The issue is it actually relating to what's happened? And the answer is no. Because when the frauditors are asked to identify, if they don't, they're not seized by the police or they're not put in handcuffs. They're just asked to leave. So this argument that the frauditors make is simply false. When police or government employees try to obtain information from an individual, whether the police is in the course of their duties or security entering a public building, it is simply following the rights the employees have to identify individuals who are entering an establishment, which is a service the owners of said establishment that hired them for is 100% lawful. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like I said, this is one of the first videos I put out on my original channel, and honestly, it's crazy to think that about a year ago, that channel was in the same way this channel was. And I'm looking forward to seeing the growth this channel makes, especially more and more as we expose these false narratives and false claims that these frauditors make. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hey, see you guys next time.